Hi, we're the team number one, and we will be present some different topics. So let's start. Well, the first topic that we are going to see today will be biology files of the study and branches of biology. First of all, we must know what is the definition of biology. Biology is the science of life. Its name is made up for the Greek roots bios, lives, and logos, study. Biology is dedicated to the study of living things and everything that is related to them. As you know, life is everywhere, so biology has some roots like anatomy, that is the branch of biology concerned with the study of the structure of organisms and their parts. Anthropology, botany, that is the scientific study of plants, biomedicine, embryology, genetic, zoology, that is a branch of biology that studies the members of animals kingdom and animals life in general, and virology, that is the study of viruses. They are the most common roots of biology, and every day new knowledge is added for the development of the humanity. Now, we look at the topic number two, that raises one of the most important questions in all of the human history. How did life started originate on the planet? The answer to this question is very varied. Here, I will mention five ideas that people have about where life comes from on Earth. The first one is very attached to religion, mentions a God who desired to create all the life. The second one talks about the electrical activity in the atmosphere creating life. The third one states that the first life forms came out of the volcanoes. The fourth one is that life began in the oceans. And the last one says that we came from the space carried by a meteorite. The most important thing is that we are here. And maybe if we take a closer look at our teeny A, we can find the answer to this great question. The third topic that we will see is characteristics of living things. The topic is closely related to the first one, because how are we going to study life if you don't know how to identify it? This is where the characteristics of living things come in, to know what things are or are not studied in the biology. The characteristics known to all are eight. Organization. That means that living things organization that means that in living things, the components are organized complexly. The second one, genetic code, that is a set of rules used by living cells to translate information. The next one is perception and response to stimuli that comes from the external and individual environment. Then growth, that means that all living things increase their volume. Then metabolism, that is obtaining and use of energy. And then homeostasis, that is a process of living things use actively maintain very stable condition necessary for survival. The next one is reproduction. That is the process by which a living beings generate another living beings of the same species. And the last one, adaptation and evolution, that are the characteristics that develop over time to solve survival problems. Now you know all the characteristics of living things, and you will not have any trouble to identify it. Well, the fourth topic that we will see will be difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. First of all, we must know the definition of each cell. Prokaryotic cells are cells that do not have a true nuclear or membrane found. Organelles. Organisms within the domains bacteria and archaea have prokaryotic cells, while other forms of life are eukaryotic. And eukaryotic, what is eukaryotic? Organisms that are based on the eukaryotic cells are called eukaryotes and include plants, animal, fungi, and protists. Now we know what each one is. Let's see their difference. Prokaryotic. It only can be unicellular. It do not have a nucleus. It can be subject to extreme conditions. Size between 1 and 10 microns. Then it do not have an endomembrane system, and it is found in the kingdom Monera. And then the eukaryotic. It can be unicellular and multicellular. It have nucleus. It cannot be subjected to extreme conditions, and size between 10 and 100 microns. It have an endomembrane system. And the last one that is could be found in the kingdom Plantae, Animalia, Fungi, and Protista. That is all of these topics. Thanks to pay attention.
Moving on to the next topic, we find history of the microscope and the cell and its theory. The history of the microscope. It was invented at the end of 16th century and at the beginning of the 17th century. Its most likely inventor is Zacharias Janssen with a 3 times and 9 times magnification, an objective and an eyepiece. Robert Hooke in 665 used it for scientific purposes, introducing the concept of the cell and the lighting using a candle with a 50 times magnification. Then we have Anton van Leeuwenhoek, who introduced a new technique for lenses with a 200 times magnification, publishing his results on 684. Then we find the cell and its history. I will tell you the most important things about this. 665. We have Robert Hooke, who published his observations of the tissue of the bark of the cork oak. On 831, Robert Brown discovered the nucleus in plant cells. And on 838, Johannes referred to the liquid that fills the cell as protoplasm. And Schleiden and Schwann said that vegetables and animals are made up of cells. We continue on 857 when Rudolf A. Volkiller identified the mitochondria, and on 880, Weismann discovered that both ancestral and current cells are similar in structure and composition. And finally, on 981, Lindmark Gullis proposed the endosymbiotic theory. Finally, we have the cell theory and its postulates. The postulates of the cellular theory affirm that 1. The cell is a morphological and structural unit of all living things. In other words, all living things are made up of cells and the products these cells generate. 2. Omnicellula ex cellula, which means every cell comes from a pre-existing one. 3. The cell is a physiological unit of life. All vital functions take place within the cells, and only one is enough to generate light in case it's a unicellular organism. Fourth, the cell contains the hereditary information for the control of its development, growth, reproduction, and to transmit that information to the next generation. We can add a fifth postulate, which is the disease begins in the cell. If the morphological, structural, physiological unit of life is healthy, then the individual is healthy. But should this unit loses its health and this imbalance propagates, there will be a disease. That's all for these two topics.
Okay, now I will talk about the cell transport. First of all, I would like to state that this is a process that happens in the cell membrane, and it is important to know that. The cell membrane is an organelle present in all cell types. Now, there's two types of transport, the passive and the active. In the passive transport, there's a high to low concentration gradient. There's no energy required, which means that it's considered more of a natural process. The active transport is a process which has low to high concentration gradient, and it actually requires energy. In the next slide, I will show you three different pictures of the passive transport, which is simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and ultrafiltration diffusion. In the next slide, I will show you a type of active transport, which is a massive type of transport, and it's named endocytosis. This is the incorporation of material to the cell. Three examples are the phagocytosis, the pinocytosis, and the receiver-mediated cytosis. The other type of active transport is exocytosis, which is the secretion of material from the cell. There's two different types, the regulated, which is the cell response to a single release to release its products, and the constitutive, that is the secretion is constant. Now I will talk about the levels of organization in the world, which first there's the atom, then the molecule, then the cellular organelles, the cell, the tissue, the organ, and the organ system. After that, we can find the organism constituted of all that said before, the population, which is a lot of organisms of the same species, the community, which is a lot of different species together, the ecosystem, which has plants, and the biome with all of the environment and everything. Thank you.
Now we pass to another topic, the homeostasis. What is homeostasis? Well, homeostasis is the quality of organisms to preserve their internal conditions despite the changing conditions in its interior or exterior. The organ system, there are many different types of systems like the circulatory, lymphatic, and digestive system, among others. Each of them has its function, which I will show. First one, we have circular system. It transfers oxygen, nutrients, and other substances to the cell. Lymphatic system defend the body against infection and diseases. Digestive system process food and absorb nutrients, minerals, vitamins, and water. Endocrine system provides communication within the body through hormones. Integumentary system provides protection against injuries and loss of fluids, as well as physical defense against infection from microorganisms. Muscular system provides movement, support, and heat reproduction. Nervous system collects, transfers, and processes information, direct fast change in other organ systems. Reproductive system produce gametes, sex cells, and sexual hormones. Its ultimate goal is produce offspring. Respiration system exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide between blood, air, and body tissue. Skeletal system supports and protects the soft tissues of the body. Urinary system eliminates excess water, salts, and waste products of the blood and body. Immune system defense against microbiological pathogens like viruses and bacteria which cause disease. And that is all. Thank you for paying attention.
Okay, so now we're gonna continue with health and disease, health in adolescents, and healthy lifestyles. First, we know that everything in our body is finely regulated by mechanisms that allow us to maintain homeostasis and therefore health. Then we have two definitions. The first one is health. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And disease is the loss of balance and homeostasis. Disease is any harmful deviation from normal structural or functional state of an organism, generally associated with certain signs and symptoms and differing in nature from physical injury. Now we have adolescent health. Adolescence is a stage that is characterized by the transition between childhood and adulthood, which implies physical, cognitive, and physiological changes. In adolescence health, we know that health is the complete well-being in three areas of the human being: physical, mental, and social. Thus, to talk about health in the adolescent, we should expect such well-being at all stages and the regular changes that adolescence faces. Now we have healthy lifestyle. Scientists have studied healthy enough to affirm that the most significant factor in its maintenance or the onset of the disease is the lifestyle. There may be a genetic predisposition to some disease, for example, diabetes. But if the lifestyle that an individual follows is healthy and balanced, the gene of the disease remains dormant, inactive, and that condition will not manifest. So, thus, healthy lifestyle leads to health. Now we have 7 behaviors that lead to health. The first one is sleep between 7 and 8 hours a day. The second one is have a breakfast every day. The third one is perform 3 meals a day. Fourth one, maintain body weight within acceptable limits. The fifth one, practice a physical activity regularly. The second one, do not consume or moderate the consumption of alcohol. And finally, the seventh one is not smoking. Okay, that was it for today's presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and these are the references. Bye.